After the parents of the accused Michigan school shooter were charged, the door remains open now for school officials to also face charges. The prosecutor overseeing the case saying a lot could have been done differently. Our chief legal analyst, Laura McNeal, here now to talk to us about this case. And Laura, Oakland County prosecutor Karen McDonald sending a very clear warning to school officials about this shooting and the fact that some of them could be held accountable. Talk to me about it, please.
Yeah, she sent a very strong message. The fact that she specifically identified them in her press conference and said, I'll determine later whether or not she's going to press charges against school officials as well. And so you can tell from this Michigan prosecutor that she is pretty upset by this brutal school shooting that took the lives of so many children, and she wants to make sure it doesn't happen again. And the only way to do that is to retrace the steps and make sure you determine everyone that played a role that allowed this to happen so that you can hold them accountable and prevent history hopefully from repeating itself. And so I think that the school officials should be very concerned because the facts support, in my opinion, charges against them.
Laura, you make a very strong point, including like that of Karen McDonald. And one of the reasons why she is so upset about this is because it appears that this could have been prevented. One teacher, for example, spotting the 15-year-old shooter looking up ammunition. Another saw his drawing of a gun with the words, "The world is dead." Those are red flags. No mention by his parents that he had been given a gun and then he's sent back to class on a promise to get some counseling. It seems that there are certain missteps that teachers made, and if they had been more proactive and more aware, they could have stepped in the day before the shooting to perhaps prevent this.
Absolutely. So Kelly, what really should have happened is once the teacher saw those drawings, that student should not have been allowed back in the classroom. They did the right thing by calling his parents to the school, but to allow him to re-enter the classroom, to not even check his backpack, which is where the weapon was being held, those were all very, very negligent acts on the part of schools. And so really what I think needs to happen on a broader level is they need a mandatory mandate for all Title I funded schools, and it's a school protocol mandate for possible school shooters so that every school, regardless if you're in Michigan, Kansas, Texas, if they see disturbing writings like they saw here, the immediate protocol is to remove that student from the classroom and not allow them to return to school until they've had at least one counseling session. And I'm sorry, they need to be searched as they're entering the school grounds because you can't get the lives back once they're lost.
Absolutely right. Well said, Laura McNeal. Thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate you coming on. And public school teachers are expected to be social workers, referees, and now security guards. Teachers have been taught to conduct safety drills in preparation of a possible school shooting, but should they be responsible for that as well? Our political panel is back now. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel says teachers in her state are coming under pressure since the shooting. Let's listen.
Teachers all over the state have been getting death threats today as a result of people being upset about what they perceive to be the actions or non-actions that occurred in Oxford on November the 30th. And so that's absolutely an egregious set of circumstances. And, there was a teacher that was shot during the course of this incident. Our educators protect us and protect our kids in school every day.
So she makes her point, but I want to go back to what the prosecutor who's overseeing this case has stated, that there are some people to be held accountable once she concludes her investigation, because as Laura McNeal was just explaining to us, there are teachers who were there who could have stepped in to prevent this. Now, let's be honest here. Teachers for years have been underpaid, overworked, and don't get the respect they truly deserve. And now they are victims like students of violence. And Crystal, is the federal government doing enough to protect teachers and students from violence? In situations like this, what could have been done differently? And how do you help the teacher as well as help the students and the parents?
Well, one, we can start by passing sensible gun legislation. That's something that Congress, no matter who is in the administration, meaning if the Democrats are in control or the Republicans are in control, that has consistently failed time and time again, back to Columbine. And so, really, when we're thinking about the federal protections that can be held, we can start with legislation that members of Congress can do. I think as it relates to this case, this is really, really tricky. And really what the prosecutor is doing is attempting to set a new precedent moving forward by holding the parents liable. Now, the question becomes, will she be able to also hold the teacher liable who did not take enough action or serious enough action based upon what she had discovered about this particular this young man who committed this egregious act, or this deadly act, if you will. And so that's something moving forward that school districts and members of Congress are going to have to wrestle with. But I believe that it really starts at the federal level with gun legislation, and that is something that Republicans and Democrats have simply just been unwilling to do. And so we see these mass shootings happen time and time again because Congress won't act when they have the opportunity to.
Look, I've only got about a minute left, but Tesla and Atiba, I got to bring in something real quickly here. An observation. If that student had been black, you know that it would have been handled differently by the teachers. So talk to me about that, Tesla. And I don't want to bring race into it, but it's a fact that if that student, Ethan Crumbley, the shooter, had been black, how would it have turned out differently?
Well, we have to bring race into it. I think about my high school, John Marshall High School, which was dominated by Bloods at the time. And we had scanners that we had to walk through every day. My girlfriend's school, Northeast High School, was dominated by Crips, and we had to walk through scanners every day. No one cared that I was a cheerleader with a cheerleader uniform on. I was scanned down and had to walk through the metal detector like everyone else. The bottom line is our Black children are treated differently. Let's just call it like it is. When white students in suburban areas get the benefit of the doubt that he can literally say, my thoughts won't stop, help me. He did a drawing of a bullet and nothing happened. Where if I just wore the wrong color at my high school, I would be looked at as possibly someone that could cause harm, not only to the students, but to the teachers. So this is deeper than gun legislation, which needs to happen. This is deeper than just a Democrat or Republican thing. This is absolutely about race. And if we ignore that at Black News Channel, then we're doing a disservice to our viewers, because at the end of the day, our students are treated differently. Our teachers are treated differently. I don't understand why we don't have metal detectors all over this country. It has been proven that these mass shooters are typically white young men. So why is it that metal detectors are not all over, including in the suburban areas? Why? Because it's against optics, and they don't want to assume that they would do the wrong thing. And we see that also with the insurrection. They didn't bring the National Guard because of bad optics. When will the optics ever work in our favor as Black people to get the benefit of the doubt, and to also understand that we are not all criminals and that we should all be treated the same?
Kelly, I just want to add one quick
Atiba,
thing.
I got to go, and I'm getting in trouble with my people, so give me a quick 10-second wrap.
10 seconds. A friend of mine visited me a few years ago from Switzerland. I took her to a bunch of our memorials. She said, Atiba, it's really, really surprising. All of your memorials are all based on war. That's what this country is.
That's a real good answer. Desmond, Crystal, and Atiba, thank you for being here today and making us think and see ourselves the way we should in terms of how we can correct the problems of our past, make sense of our present, and build a better future.